Say good evening, but it's not a real good evening tonight up and down the peninsula of Florida as Hurricane Milton crashes into our state. We've been following it all day and for a couple of days. Behind me, I've got the Fox News channel on, Fox Weather channel. If you haven't tried it, try it. Among other things, if all your power goes out and all you have is your phone, you can still get information by going online and streaming Fox Weather. It's very good, very good. So we know what's happening. Milton is here, as predicted. I'm looking behind my back now, where it's third landfall this year in Florida. We know about Tampa being a dangerous place, and we're all fearful for our loved ones down there who are in a place where the mayor said, if you don't leave, you will die. That's very scary. And I have relatives and loved ones down there. I don't want anybody to die, especially my loved ones. So my thoughts and prayers are with you tonight. We'll start off the program here in a minute with a prayer. We want to hear from you out there where you are as best you can. Tell us where you are, if you're safe, what's going on, and to have a place to come and share our thoughts about this horrific hurricane named Morton. Yeah, it's a tough deal to go with for anybody, but it's particularly tough for those who've been through things before. And stand by, coming up next, our hurricane special. We want you to check in with us, let us know what's going on with you.
Your buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Our very best to you tonight. We're losing power right and left. We already had 10 or 15 people say lost power. 2 of them are our guests tonight. I'm not sure how long we can go on the air tonight, as long as you'd like to. And maybe you just have a chance to communicate our love with each other. We just lost Carlton. He won't be there. And so Kylo's hit pretty hard now with power, as I'm sure will be the case. So we'll go with this as long as you want to. Try to speak to your issues. I want you to tell me what you know about this, what you're going through with, because it's different everywhere. And we know that right there below Sarasota, below Tampa, is the entry point, likely, unless there's a sudden change. And then from there, it'll go across the state. And I'm really worried because tonight my brother, Bill Martin, is in Sarasota. And I'm really concerned about it. So thoughts and prayers on that. I'm going to do something I have never done on this show before, but because of the situation that we're in, because we're all praying for safety for our loved ones, for everybody, we're praying for them. We just want somehow, Lord, to prevail. I saw this beautiful prayer online tonight. I thought it'd be fitting tonight. I don't do this much to read this prayer. And the prayer is from someone named Liana Nova. I do not know Liana, but she said this, and I think it's all sums up all our feelings. Even if you're not a man of, if you're not a person of faith, you have to agree this is special. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here, enter this day, be at my side, to light and guide, to rule and guard. Father, all the elements of nature obey your command. Calm the storms and hurricanes that threaten us, and turn our fear of your power and to praise of your goodness. Grant this through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. And I will say amen to that. And it's something that is a very beautiful prayer, and lots of prayers being said tonight for everybody. It's just in my lifetime, I was going to talk about this tonight. If I get my people online, I think I've got one now. Let's go see. Let's see who this is who's going to pop up. Yeah, there's Loren Meadows. The ever faithful Loren Meadows joins the program. Loren, I can't even say good evening because it's not a good evening at all.
Yeah, it's tough right now, man. Just like you said, praying for everybody, and we all go through this together. And I've kind of considered myself an honorary Floridian for probably 6, 7 years now. Home away from home, but yeah, just definitely thinking of everybody and picturing those that are on that west side, Siesta Key, beautiful place, and just really good people, and just everybody. I mean, we want everybody to be safe and sound. And those of you that don't have power, just hang in there, and hopefully you get it back soon. And that'll be the worst of it. So just really thinking about everybody.
All folks that come and share with us tonight, we're usually doing the talking and talking about what we know. I want you to tell us. Led off by David Baldoff, who says Gilly Dilly. Michael Burton, hey buddy. David Baldoff again, DeLand, Florida. And we are good here so far. Well, I'm glad to hear that, David. I hope it's consistently. He's Toby Permanent says, good evening from Ocala and safe. Go Gators. I just got 2 messages from Ocala. One was my daughter, Lori, who says she just lost her power. And then somebody else in Carlton Reese is scheduled to be on tonight. He lost his power. That's how it's going to be. But as long as we can go, we'll go, right?
Yep.
Perry Mason says,
All right.
Go Gators, alive and well in Lake Placid. Chris Parker says, I'm from Colorado. Not sure what it's got to do with the storm. But anyway, I appreciate you checking in. Yeah, buddy, earning combat pay. Well, no, not really. I'm up here, and I am tonight here in Panama City. One of the smartest things I ever did in my life, and it was just the suggestion of my stepson, Sheriff Tommy Ford, who tonight is in Tallahassee and headed to be on the team in Tampa, headed that way to help with all the sheriffs. So we say prayers for him, and we took off at the last second, as you know, on Monday at 2:00, and we thought we got to go now or not go. And we got up to, I said, if we can get through that gauntlet, but I-80, I-75, and I-10, if we get to there and then make a left, we can make it. There was some doubt for the next 40-some miles getting to Lake City because there were all kinds of trucks and cars and driving crazy and whatever. But I'm thankful that we made it through. And in about what it was, hour and 15 or 20 minutes, we had turned left and we were going the wrong way, as you might guess. We were going back. We're going towards the storm, and we had a clear shot and got here about 6:30 on Monday night and got unpacked. And I'm telling you, you talk about a relief getting here. We were so happy to be here. But that's the good news. The bad news is I've got friends and loved ones that I'm concerned about. Loren, you're one of them.
Yeah. Well, we so far it's so good here in Gainesville. It's just pretty much not even much wind. I think last time winds were 18 miles per hour. So I know this thing is gonna come across and move, but so far so good. Obviously, because I'm online and everybody's buckled in, and we just ready to kind of sit on this. Someone asked about, I mean, to kind of lighten the situation, I guess. Someone asked about the football team getting up to Knoxville. I would assume that the storm will be gone by Friday morning. So I would assume that they'll fly out Friday morning, and weather's supposed to be decent in Knoxville. So if they can kind of just dodge, they kind of take off going west, and then north, they should be able to get there. And, maybe people have a little excitement for the weekend, something to take their mind off the damage. Fortunately, sometimes sports can bring people together. So, I've seen where somebody had a generator and a TV, and those that didn't have power from the neighborhood came over and you barbecue what was left in the freezer and things like that. So it's an opportunity for people that may not have had conversation to get together. So, maybe the Florida Gators can, and other sports teams around the area. But obviously, there'll be some, depending on what happens. I don't know where USF is this weekend and some of those things, but just all of this is just it's an unknown. And there's a lot of people out there. I have friends in the Tampa area, and Marsha's son is down in Naples. So just kind of just really think about everybody, and it's something that obviously you don't take lightly. And just let's talk a little sports, talk a little life, and have a good, give people something to take their mind off for about an hour or so.
Yeah, if they want to talk about the hurricane, we'll do that. In fact, I'm going to have a segment where we can talk about our experiences with the hurricane. What's your first one? How many have you been in? What's the best decision and the worst decision you ever make? People get crazy during this time. We'll have that conversation, but we got some football. You'll be in Knoxville. It's a meaningful game. And who is this Florida team? We talked a lot about it. We've seen a couple of teams we thought weren't that good turn out to be the best teams they played. That would be Texas A&M, of course, and Miami. I went to bed thinking Miami had lost. When I got in the car, and by the way, I had a horrendous experience with you may know, in the press box and getting the shuttle out of there. And Chris Spears and I waited for 30 minutes at 12 o'clock at night. He had a ride over to the lot to find a pair of pines. Chris couldn't find his keys. And we sat there. Luckily, I'm not complaining. That's small stuff compared to what these people have been through with. And because of some inefficiency and the confidence in the people who run the shuttles now, Media Mike's gone, got a new guy, totally screwed this up. And then to top of that, we had Chris's sheetifying. Luckily, Carlton Reese was sitting at the end of the parking lot listening to the Miami game. And I called him, he said, "Oh, I'm here." So we had to get in with Carlton and leave Chris's car and drive home, and then go get Chris's car at Prestige Auto, and got home about 2 o'clock. So we didn't get much written that night, but we got it in there. And I want to thank the people who supported Gator Bait during this time. Even though we've had our difficulties, this storm didn't make it any easier. We had people who were heroic like you, Loren. You've been such a tremendous asset as a supervisor and senior personnel and writing and broadcasting. I just want to thank you personally for all you've done. And a lot of other guys too, but especially you, Loren. You were great and have been. We have some news. We'll talk about in a minute. Losing another receiver, Florida did. I don't want to dwell on the negative things tonight, but there are some things in the news to be discussed. And always with Billy, how's your recruiting going? Well, they lost another one. Meanwhile, there'll be some news in the hurricane department. Here's one from you for you. NBC News Weather Unit. Record number of tornado warnings ever issued in Florida in a single day. That was today. Record number of tornadoes. As if it weren't bad enough dealing with the Cat 5 hurricane. It said now over 100. That was earlier today. So it's been quite a few. Milton. Then this is a lot of oddities. Here's something that happened. Just hours before Hurricane Milton, I hate to have that name because my name is Wilton and Martin, and some people call me Milton by mistake. Anyway, is set to strike Florida. Residents in several neighborhoods have witnessed an eerie spectacle. Listen to this. Groups of sandhill cranes gathering and emitting sharp, urgent calls as if signaling the need to flee. Just hours before Hurricane Milton is set to strike Florida.
Mm.
Anyway, these animals are so smart,
Mm-hmm.
so smart. And they know what's coming and they're getting out of there. I looked out my window over here tonight, and here I'm here in Panama City, sitting on the bay, on the dock of the bay, and I saw all of a sudden this flock of birds, and Dawn and I were watching them about 6 o'clock. Must have been 1,000 birds flying this way. Small, I'm not sure. Dawn, what were they? Were they seabirds? Some kind of seabirds? I'm not sure what they were, but they were flying all this way, away from the hurricane. I mean, it just kept coming and coming and coming. So what happens there? We need to pay attention to what the animals are doing. And I'm glad there are places like Tampa's got a place to take the animals. I saw a piece today that they're taking even pieces of coral because and preserving them, because the coral is the key to our environmental infrastructure, and we're losing it. And they were taking these fresh pieces of coral and putting them in a fresh place and protecting them. I'm grateful for those people who take care of the animals and our communities. All right, Loren.
Well, that's why, isn't that why, and you guys can correct me, but the ibis, that's why Miami has the ibis, right? Because it's the last bird to leave before a hurricane.
Didn't know that.
Somebody fact check me. I know it. I know it's because of something with the ibis and hurricanes. I think the
They
ibis
probably made it up.
is the. I think it's the last bird. Somebody fact check me on that. I think it's the last bird.
Well, let's
to
ask
leave
people.
before a
Our people
hurricane.
are smart.
That's what I said. Somebody fact check me.
Yeah, come on.
I think I'm almost sure that's why the ibis is the mascot for for the hurricanes.
Perry Mason said is torn up his place in Lake Placid, Florida, but it spared his house. That's great news to hear.
Yeah.
We love hearing about it. Let us know how you're doing. Chris Spears, our buddy, said, yeah, one of these shows, Loren needs to show his birthday picture.
Yeah, Chris Spears blessed me really well on the birthday, and it's a picture of my wife and I. It's my screensaver actually for my computer, but yeah, I'll grab it. I got to send Chris. I actually hung it, so I got to send Chris a picture of it. But it's a great picture of me and.
Did I not celebrate with you? Did I sing happy birthday to you? I thought I did. Maybe I
Yeah,
did.
you did. You sent me a very nice message to me and all of our followers. No, it was great. And yes, the ibis is the last bird to leave.
Well, listen to you.
Hurricane.
See, I learned. That's what I want to do. I want to learn these things tonight.
So that's why it's the Hurricanes,
Yeah,
mascot, Sebastian Ibis.
There's so much to be learned. I thought about this today. I have over 80 years invested in Florida and been through dozens of hurricanes. I thought tonight would be good for people to tell their stories, if they'd like to, about their first hurricane experience, their worst hurricane experience, and maybe their best hurricane experience. I know that mine is pretty easy. My first one, I was like 8 or 9 years old. My mother worked for the sheriff's department in Marion County, and she went with the senior deputy to Cedar Key. It was a devastating storm there. We're talking like 1950 now, 1951. She took me, and we went up with Willie, and we went up to there at Cedar Key and drove around. You could do that then. And honestly, it was like a bunch of matchsticks. All those, that thing, Cedar Key was just obliterated. I remember that thinking, man, this must be something else. And of course, over the years, I've been through quite a few others. My worst experience was Charlie. I know there's nothing compared to what they're going through today, but they reference it several times on Fox. This really good Fox weather, by the way. It's a good channel if you haven't tried. It's the best I've seen. I've discovered that. That's the best thing about this. I've discovered this really good weather channel, Fox. And they've referenced it several times. And their main thing, every storm has their own characteristic, something about it, and they say you can't mix and match them. But this is one where I went home for lunch in Punta Gorda because I thought maybe the bridges might be down later on. I figured it'd be coming up the coast, like scheduled to go right up the coast, and it'd be gone. And there was a category 2, no problem. Well, guess what? You should never predict hurricanes. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I came home for lunch, ate lunch, and about 2 hours later, turned on the TV, and one weather guy from Fort Myers said, "The hurricane, what's the matter? Your lights going out?"
Nah, Marsha just turned off a light. Scared me. I was like,
Oh, here you go. Well, if you go, you
He
go.
turned off the living room lights.
Marcia, can Marcia get a light, can match and hold it up to you? Well, we're glad. Anyway, the bottom line is that this thing was so unusual. They still talk about it. It was going up and it took a hard right, 90-degree angle, right up Charlotte Harbor, right where I live.
Mm.
We scrambled. Next thing you know, I'm standing in the middle of the living room. My glass doors are buckling. I feel like my roof's going to come off my house. And it's horrible sound outside, like a freight train. That's what they say about if you have a tornado. They say you hear a noise sound like a freight train. That's what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
So it just wrecked us completely, and we were out of everything for weeks. I got in my car and drove down to the newspaper. The newspaper wasn't even. They were all gone. I was the managing editor. I couldn't find my paper anywhere. They
Wow.
picked up and moved, and all the cell phones are out. So I'm driving around. It's like having a nightmare. It's like having being a coach and not being able to get to a football game. And I'm there. I'm looking. I can't find them.
Mm-hmm.
I had one landline in my house for some reason. I don't know why. And lo and behold, it rang. It was my friend John Finneran who called to tell me, "Hey, we're up here in Northport at the other office and we're putting the paper out. And so come when you can." So I did. My phone rang again. It was the Associated Press. They wanted to know what was going on. I said, "Well, I can tell you what. I just drove down to Punta Gorda, had to turn around and come back." I said, the quote from the guy who owned the Irish bar said, "This is a war zone down there." That quote went around the world because that's the only contact they had there. So I got in my car and drove up to Northport, where about 20 of my colleagues were. We slammed together this paper. I mean, literally slammed it. I stopped and got a few photographs, wrote a quick story, and we had no editors, no proofreaders, no nothing. But we forged these stories out of just what we had, and we put it on a disc and took it to Sarasota because we couldn't run our press, where they would print it out, and the next day we'd hand it out free to people. And we did that. That paper, the news in that paper, we had about 20 stories and 20 pictures. It was a finalist in a Pulitzer Prize. We got down to the final 3, and we were so close that they actually called me to find out the details of what we did. And they said, "You had a lot of errors, typos." I said, "Yes, ma'am, we did, and I'm very proud of them. They're badges of courage." And we had nobody, no proofreaders, no editors, but we got the paper out in the hands of the people. The reason I know people were crying when we handed them the paper, literally crying. That was newspaper at its finest, when you can put something in somebody's hand free and say, here's what happened. They didn't know. They had no TV or radio. So that was my experience there in that. And anyway, it was quite a experience. I'm sure you're pretty new. You haven't had any, right?
Well, I had one when I lived in Durham, North Carolina. I think I mentioned yesterday on the show. It was the first inland hurricane in 60 years in the state of North Carolina. So I had been there maybe 2, 3 weeks, and we started school, started playing football, and back then the state of North Carolina had off weeks. So we were actually supposed to play Garner High School. That game got canceled. Then we had an off week. So, you had everything going and school was canceled. And my family actually went to a hotel. But it was kind of interesting because the lights went out. And then we all said, hey, let's just go to sleep. And then when we woke up the next day, trees and everything had fallen. We lived in a big wooded area. Actually, same subdivision that Spurrier lived in when he was at Duke. And the stuff fell. And so It was, I didn't necessarily, we didn't get the worst of it there in Durham. Raleigh got a little bit more, had some flooding, but the aftermath, there were some people that had trees on their houses and things like that. And that's what I talked about. Just, everybody banding together as a neighborhood. And, we all went and helped these people that
Yeah.
had a tree on their house. And then they had a big barbecue. My dad and other people, they barbecued, things like that, to make sure that, the food didn't go to waste. And people that you would normally never talk to, we all got together and talked and things like that. And turned out I had a couple students that lived in the neighborhood, so that was kind of cool. Didn't know that. And so just that was my experience. And then obviously last week, unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, we had some damage to the house, but nothing crazy, nothing that can't be fixed. But it definitely got me into action. So I feel like I got a little bit more of a hurricane kit ready to roll, and I'm prepared with the generator and things like that. So, but yeah, definitely new to the hurricane get down for sure.
Here's a guy who is one of the most venerable guys, and we're having a conversation tonight. And you forget, not everybody was around when these things happened. Franz and I have had long experiences of being Floridians with hurricanes, and we're swapping notes tonight. That was Loren's first experience with a hurricane. There can be some good, but it's a tough thing. And Franz, as you get ready tonight, I know you're concerned about people, as I am, with my brother down there. I'm glad that you got power and you're up. I know you've had a difficult time taking care of your parents. God bless you for what you've done there. And just share with us, if you will, we just were saying, what's the worst experience, and what's the best experience for you with hurricanes? Good evening to you.
Well, I was around during Hurricane Donna, and a lot of people aren't old enough to remember that. But had South Florida been as populated as it is now, Donna would have gone down as the greatest hurricane in history. It would have gone down. It would have made Katrina look pretty bad. I mean, pretty weak by comparison. It was unbelievable what it did. Not only did it to our state, but went up to New York and did millions of dollars of damage on New York and Long Island because it re-strengthened in the Atlantic. Was there for that. I was there for a couple of them up in North Carolina. I was in Mississippi, and we got out just ahead of Camille in Mississippi. And Camille is another one that if the Mississippi Gulf Coast were as populated as it is today, the 250 or so who died then, it would have been 4 times that easily. But Florida's had its share of bad ones. The one we had in 2017, Irma, my goodness, Paynes Prairie, which has 4 lanes of highway, had one lane going north, one lane going south, and that was it because Paynes Prairie was so high it went over. We've had some serious storms here. I've been out in the Florida Panhandle, and immediately after some hurricanes. Somebody mentioned Andrew. One of my best friends had a home in Coral Gables, and she got the word, "Don't come home," because Andrew was coming. And she stayed here and stayed in Daytona Beach. Andrew came across. She went down to Coral Gables and couldn't find her home. That's how much damage was done down there. She could not find her street or her home. And Andrew is a sentimental thing for me because my best childhood friend during our 3 years of exile in Mississippi, Tommy Daugherty, who was the chief sheriff's detective in Pike County, Mississippi, a judge had let this guy out 2 or 3 times because he was his nephew. And there was looting because Andrew came across, re-strengthened in the Gulf and hit New Orleans and comes up to Mississippi. and there were people looting, and Tommy was out there to catch a looter. And this guy that the judge had let out 2 or 3 times held up a shotgun, blew his head off. So I have, I got some sad memories about hurricanes.
I bet you do. Yeah, there's a lot of bad. Every now and then there's some good. I know when I did this, I went around after Charlie and went to neighborhoods and tried to dig out stories of people that did really great things. There were some heroic efforts of people who got people out, got people to doctors and took care of them and what have you. And we started something called Hurricane Heroes. We had a series for about 12 weeks on these people who did extraordinary things in times of crisis. That's what you're talking about, Loren, is that sometimes you have those really heroic things that happen in time of need. And the reason I want to come on tonight, and I see we have a very large audience tonight, surprisingly, was this is a shared community. Our people, this is not your average everyday kind of site, Franz, as you know, where we like to share with our friends and neighbors, and especially those that we're close to. So I'm going to put a couple of their comments up here and see what they have to say, and make sure I've asked them to please tell us where they are, if they're safe, if they're okay. And I'd like to check in. Here's what Chris Spears says. Monroe County, which is Key West, he says, has had 26 hurricanes in the last 100 years. And Toby Parmenter, who's still hanging on with no power, although he's got his computer going, says, let's see what he says here. I remember Hurricane Donna. You were just talking about that, Franz. My memory of Hurricane Donna was I was down in South Florida, and I saw the remnants of it 6 months later. And I remember seeing a railroad track up in the air and twisted. That's how strong that wind was. The steel could be twisted. So a couple other things here. We are going to talk a little football here. We get to it. Let's see what we got. What's up, people?
Buddy, you just mentioned while we're looking at, you just mentioned the hurricane that hit down at Port Charlotte when you were down there.
Yeah.
And that was in 2004.
Right.
When I think we had 3 hurricanes in 3 weeks and totally disrupted Ron Zook. Ron Zook might have survived and might have gone on to a long-term coaching career at Florida, except those three hurricanes hit in 3 weeks and totally disrupted the Florida football schedule.
Yes, they did. In fact, the lead of my book on that with Urban was he came along at a time when we just got hammered by hurricanes that year, and it was a crazy time. Tim Blackburn says Hurricane Hurricane Charlie hammered Polk County. Yeah, came up to the middle of the state. You're right about Hurricane Ibis. Did you know this, friends?
Yeah.
Okay, I know that. I learned that tonight.
Oh yeah, we've had. I'll tell you, this is funny. It really is, because in 1964, now you two great hurricane stories, and you've got one, buddy, because in 1964, Florida ends up beating LSU because of a hurricane.
That's correct.
But in the meantime, before the hurricane that caused your problem, we had a hurricane, and it comes across the state. It makes landfall south of Cape Canaveral, comes up here. We get out of school. Yay, hurricane time. We get out of school. It comes across south of Ocala, and we miss school. I'm at Westwood Junior High School, 8th grade. Holy cow, we're out of school, and it came on a day when I had a test that I don't think I was prepared for. Gets out into the Gulf, goes out into the Gulf. We have school the next day. We're back in school at Westwood. The hurricane reverses tracks and comes back across the state.
Oh my gosh.
We miss where they send us home at noontime. I missed the test again. This is on a Thursday, then on a Friday. So on Monday, I was so well prepared. I aced that sucker like you can't believe. But had it been on Wednesday, on Thursday or Friday, I don't think I'd have done so well on that one.
Yeah. The other part of that was you mentioned the year that the game was hurricaned out in New Orleans. A couple of stories there. One of them is they came back at the end of the year and Spurrier kicked their tail, and that's when we couldn't beat LSU back in those days. He had a great game there, and then the other thing was that the game that was hurricaned out. What year was it? And it was so cold. Might have been the same year. It was so cold that Florida writers had on all their summer clothes because it was late.
That was the same one because it was cold as that night.
It was so cold. It was so cold. This is true. Remember,
how cold was it?
It was this cold. Remember mimeograph stats? The old mimeograph, that's how we used to get them. It was so cold they couldn't print the stats out. And they went down and got about a half a dozen LSU football jerseys and put them on Florida guys to keep them from freezing. That was one of the coldest games I've ever been. I've been in cold climate. That was unbelievable. Then, of course, as you know, friends, it also cost Florida possibly a national championship when Spurrier was at Florida, and the game had to be called not because of the hurricane, but because of it was 9/11. A lot of stories going on there. Anybody else got a good story? We'll share it with you. Loren, you have anything you want to add there?
No, I just, like I said, I remember, recently the hurricane game where Florida had to make the trip was actually the home team at LSU. And I think it was the two ADs got together and made sure they could play that game under Franz's favorite coach, McElwain. But one of the historic goal line stands in Florida history was also because of a hurricane there. Franz, what was that? 2000, what?
2016.
16, yeah. So, I mean, just some of those things that kind of have a sports twist. But for me, yeah, it was just, your first year ever coaching. This is my first year coaching high school football. I coached one game. We actually beat David Gerard at Southern High School in Durham. And then we didn't play for like another 3 weeks. So, imagine, you got the doldrum of 2 days and then the kids start playing. They get to hit somebody else. And then for 3 weeks, they got to hit each other again because we didn't play because of hurricanes. So that's kind of a lighthearted twist on
for sure. All right. So Tracy Workman, the Cubas. Tracy, good to hear from you. Safe in Lotsway County, Tracy. We're glad that you and Chris are okay there. One of our first advertisers on this show, the Cubas. Also, Dean says, I was in Gainesville in 92. Okay. Born in Miami. Gabe says, like a war zone after Andrew. David Baldoff says, my first real experience was Francis 20 years ago. Here's our friends from down in Lakeland. Howard Lovering says, hello, buddy, my friend from the pipeline. We are hunkered down. Glad to hear that. Hope you're safe. Toby says he remembers Hurricane Alina in 85. I don't remember Alina. I wasn't here at the time. Ivan, of course, I remember that. Thomas Dobbs brings that up. Lots of stories about losing power. Here's a comment I want to make. It's not political. That's what I want to say. I'm glad I'm able to judge somebody for their deed and not their party. I've been critical of our governor, but Tim Blackburn said, thankful for DeSantis and his leadership with these hurricanes, very proactive. And on that note, I will say that's true.
37,000. He has 37,000 people from all over the country here to work to restore power and emergency services.
Yeah.
Unprecedented preparation. And, and this is not a political statement, but it's times like this that you better have someone in leadership who understands and knows what he's doing. And because the people out there who lose their home, they don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. They just want to know, can you help? And they want to know, can I get my lights back on? Can I flush my toilet? Can I drink the water? And you've got to have great leadership. And we're blessed in this state. We've got a governor that I think when it comes, I know people will disagree about other things, but when it comes to handling the aftermath of a storm, I've never seen anybody better than he is. And we've seen that throughout his administration. He's terrific. And we need that. And not only that, we need communities, coming together and working. We need the good people like Samaritan's Purse. I mean, Franklin Graham, what he's doing is absolutely amazing. Do you guys realize that Samaritan's Purse serves 150,000 meals a day in Lviv, Ukraine, and yet they're here with doing it in North Carolina and in South Carolina and in Georgia and in Florida? Sometimes it takes these disasters to bring out the absolute best in people. Loren, you had mentioned that earlier. We see that, and it's amazing when we see it happen. I have the utmost respect for Franklin Graham and what he does. And I've seen his commercials on all the networks, and he says, I'm not asking for your money. I'm asking for your prayers, because we're here, we're working, and we need your prayers. And that's all he does. He doesn't come there and ask for anybody's money. He just says, give me your prayers. What an amazing guy.
Yeah, we're fans of his here in our house. And by the way, I do want to talk a little football, but before I do that, let me just get my message in from our sponsors. I know they want me to say to you to have a safe time, take care, listen to the instructions on what you're being fed, act on them, and don't try to be a hero. They would say you take care of your family, take care of yourself, and be safe and dry, and Godspeed. And this would come from all of our sponsors. Jeffrey Melda for sure would be right there, along with our friends at Rinstar Medical Research and TitanMRI.com. All wish you a safe time, and we pray to God. We read a prayer at the beginning of the program. I don't know if you read it or you heard about it or not, Laura. It was a beautiful prayer about taking care of the people of Florida and our friends, our neighbors, and especially our loved ones. So just want to get that from the sponsors. And the same with you guys. I know you all got challenges. I'm just glad we're able to come together tonight with a very nice sized crowd who they want to get together and talk as a community. And we want them to be able to do that. We want to be here for them as well. So lots of people have things to comment. I love Van Der's comment about earlier. He said he didn't worry about losing power or lights because he didn't have running water and didn't have lights as a kid. He said, wouldn't worry about that, right? It's a good point. Chris Spears gets this in. Chris does some tremendous work with the food bank. He just does a great job. If you're in the Ocala area, his Compassion Food Bank is handing out food, water, and ice Friday morning at 8 o'clock. And Chris showed me the numbers the other day about what they're giving out away the food. I'm going to make up a number. I'm going to say when they first started, they gave out, I don't know, let's say $200,000 the first year or something in food. I think they give that away a month now almost. So people are doing unusual and I'm grateful for that. So say that. All right, let me just say also, we're going to talk some football here, but let's finish up our hurricane conversation. And we had some news today about a recruit. There are all kind of people asking questions about, things like, I hear one coach should stop recruiting. I don't know. I can't address those. Those are rumors. I don't know about that, but I know it's going to be a challenge. and Billy has to hold it together. So, and you're going to the game in Knoxville, and so this guy wants to know he's going to meet you there, Loren.
Yeah, that's my man, Greg Upton. Big fan of the Gators, big fan of the show, and Greg was here for the Miami game and got to hang out with him, spend some time with him and his lovely wife, Jalen. But if you talk to Greg, and Greg's kind of the barometer for the Tennessee Vols, and they're a sick bunch right now. I mean, if it took they took one on the chin and one they weren't expecting, and I think they were flying kind of high. So it's going to be. I think Florida is going to be out to prove that, particularly their defensive performance against UCF was not a fluke. And Tennessee, they got some weapons, and they got some guys that kind of underperformed their last couple big boy games, and they're going to want to make a statement. I mean, it's prime time, and 17 of the last 19, Florida's come home with it. So, including last year's game, where I think once again Tennessee thought they had something going, and Florida kind of dominated the game. So I think it'll be the same thing, same kind of atmosphere. I've been to Neyland, but never at night. So as a football fan, I'm pretty excited about Neyland at night.
It's Nayland, first of all. Remember that.
Is it Neyland? Okay.
Nayland.
Neyland at night. And, I've been to LSU at night and a couple other places, but going to Neyland Stadium at night for a football game, if anything, I mean, I'm a football junkie, and
well, you'll love it.
Those are bucket list kind of things. So
I got to tell you something. People don't realize that the general was Colonel Neyland when he began, but he was over a 2 or 3 year period there at the U.S. Military Academy playing football. Omar Bradley, Dwight Eisenhower. The superintendent was a guy named Doug MacArthur. General Van Fleet, who we know here in this state, who was at one point in time the football coach at the University of Florida. They have the Van Fleet Trail and forest here in Gainesville, rented from my grandfather. Get that, but on and on and on, the number of coaches and players and generals who came out over a 3 year period there. General Neyland, it turns out, played football, but he was best known because he was the ace of their baseball staff, pitching staff there at Army. And back in those days, I think just about every athlete played all three sports. Well, played two sports. Basketball hadn't really caught on yet, but the amazing stuff that has happened. And of course, the general, in 1928, there was a drought in East Tennessee. Florida went up there to play. The Gators were unbeaten. Tennessee had tied a ball game. And they thought that the winner of this game was going to go to the Rose Bowl. And Florida gets up there, and amazingly, the morning of the game, Florida shows up at the stadium, and Shields Field became Shields-Watkins Stadium, then became Neyland Stadium. It's a quagmire. It had rained, and you know what? It didn't rain anywhere else in East Tennessee. All that rain fell on their field. And the general, Colonel,
he denied that.
He did, but but people who were there say,
there are some accounts that are different. You're right.
Like my grandfather's cousin Dale Van Sickle swore it's true till the day he died.
Yeah, I know a lot of people did say that. You're right, Franz. I want to jump in here real fast. I got some questions about Tennessee. In fact, I think it was last night, Loren. One guy said, "Could you educate us on Tennessee and Florida?" And I think together between 12 friends, we can do that. First of all, Tennessee was never really a rival for us until Spurrier came along. 1990, it all started. I mean, Tennessee and Florida didn't play that much. What how it became a rivalry was they were both there in the SEC East and became the dominant teams. The team that won that game usually won the division. It was Florida mostly, obviously. Payne never could beat them. And it began to develop quite a rivalry because they were both like top 5, top 6 teams every year, and they became rivals when they weren't. So that's true. And also, there's a great history of that. You know, Doug Dickey, who started so many traditions at Tennessee, the checkerboard, end zone, the horse, all that stuff. He started that. He was successful there. And he, of course, was hired at Florida, came here with an SEC in his back pocket after he lost to Florida that year in the bowl game. And he became, unfortunately, failed at Florida. He should have been a slam dunk, being a Gator grad. So there's a lot of history there. Franz, we can sit here and talk about Bob Woodruff, other connections between the two, but Florida and Tennessee have been kind of been tied at the hip. Not so much lately. I read a stat today. I think it was who was it today that posted this? That Florida and Tennessee since 1990. You guys have any idea what their record is?
Let's see. Steve was 8-4. Was 8-4 against Tennessee. Zook was 1-2, so that's 9-6. Urban never lost to the Vols, so that's 15-0. Let's see. Muschamp 4 years, 2-2 record. That's 11-8. McElwain won all 3 years. So that's 14-8. Let's see.
Now I thought McElwain lost once. Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, that's right. He did. That's when they broke the streak.
Yeah.
He broke the streak. Muschamp never lost to him. That's right. Muschamp never lost to him. McElwain did. And I'm not sure. Let's see. Mullen never lost to him.
Nope.
And Billy is 1-1.
So you did a good job of reconstructing, friends. You've always been good with figures. So 26-8. 26-8. Supposed to be a rivalry, right? There you go.
Well,
Amazing.
and I got to tell you one other thing. Florida, every time Florida plays Tennessee, I feel like we owe them because Tennessee and the fine fella up there at Georgia, Vincent Dooley, are the two guys that had a script of our SEC championship in 1984, prevented us from winning it in 1985 when we had the best team in the SEC for the second straight year, and then prevented Steve Spurrier from being able to win the SEC in 1990. And that's all thanks to those fine folks up there in Vol territory. So anytime we kick them in the NADS, I'm happy.
Quick update on the hurricane. Of course, it's now hit landfall. They're already having flash floods in Tampa. Both my kids kind of lost power. Brendan and Lori both have lost power. We don't, and as Kyle points out, thousands out of power, which currently lucky in Silver Spring Shores area. Quite a few people have lost power. You two guys are not have been among them. And it's going to be a long night, and our thoughts and prayers with all those people that are going through this terrible time. All right, on to football. Joshua Moore, a top 200 player nationally out of Pembroke Pines, wide receiver, committed to the Gators back on June 26th. Looked like he was going to be a Gator. Said, based on the film, there's questioning that Moore is a 4-star prospect. His catch radius, athleticism should play well. Moore appeared to be headed to the Gators, and now in the FSU when he made his commitment. Miami and Georgia were in the picture. The season progressed. Moore made treks to Gainesville. Apparently, he made a commitment, and now he's decommitted from Florida. So this continues on. I get it. But today in this world, they can commit and decommit. No big deal, right? Just a little news there.
Buddy, I think these days and times, if you can come away with 12 solid recruits on signing day who are high school kids, and you can come up with 12 solid recruits from the portal, I think that most people would say that there is going to be less emphasis as we go on high school recruiting. Yeah. Well, and I think that's going to be the case because
I think we just lost Loren. I think his power just went out.
Well,
go ahead.
I think there's going to be more and more emphasis placed on people. You look at what Lane's done there at Ole Miss. Lane has 3 great wide receivers, one that's homegrown and 2 that he's brought up through the portal. And Trey Harris is one of them, who's, unbelievable receiver, and Juice Wells. But you look at their tight end came from Memphis. It's the way that the world goes right now. And until we come up with some rules and guardrails on the portal, we're going to have some weird stuff going on. I wrote about this today because we've had this week alone, Alabama lost a key defensive tackle. The best linebacker they have at South Carolina decided to redshirt, and I love what Shane Beamer did. Shane Beamer said, guess what, big boy, move out of the dorm. You're on your own. You're paying your way. You're paying your way the rest of the way. I like that, but we've got to have some guardrails put on there. And I think the simplest thing to do, buddy, is we set up a 5-year. You got 5 years, okay? And that 5 years, if you're injured 4 years, you got 1 year, and you only in the 5th year you play. You don't get any do-overs for those years you were injured.
I like the Franz Beard plan. If it could work, we'll see. But there's got to be some change.
Oh, it would work, but you got to have some people willing to implement it. The NCAA would never do that. It makes too much sense, buddy. And you cannot, as long as the NCAA is in charge of football, we're going to have problems because these people are brain dead. I mean, one of the great jokes there's ever been is the president of the NCAA was involved in a terrible accident. Did you hear about it? And the answer is, of course, no. It says an intelligent thought struck him.
Did you hear about the letter of intent being ruled now no longer valid today?
No, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I just saw the headline that apparently they have another way of addressing it, and now the letter of intent's not going to be valid anymore.
Well, I think that they need to have, instead of that, a letter of intent. You need to sign a contract.
Yeah.
And that contract says if you opt out,
no play, no pay.
Your NIL is off for good, and you got to pay it back. Your scholarship is invalid for that year. If you opt out during the season or for the bowl game, you got to pay it back.
Franz, is he talking about Tim or about Greer? I guess he is. His quarterback dismissed from the team, went to West Virginia.
That was Will Greer, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought, yeah.
Will Greer, who swears that he basically was given the okay by our staff to get an over-the-counter supplement, and it turns out it was banned. Now, how much of that, I don't know. Will Greer may have been covering his butt for all I know.
Well, here's a voice from our past someone who's doing quite well. She just got promoted. She's going to be in charge of a whole territory from Panama City to Gainesville. And Ainsley Lee, our own. I need one of those hats, Buddy Martin. I'll stay safe. Okay, I'll give you mine if you come back down here and work for us again. She's great.
Ainsley is proof that if you're willing to work harder than anybody else, you can go places. And she's fought a lot of obstacles along the way because people look at her and they see she's a pint-sized young lady. But she's proven that she can elbow her way in with the big guys.
Dynamite comes in small packages, man. Just remember that.
I'm so proud of her. And you know, buddy, let's face it, over the years, and we've been working together for a lot of years. Look at the number of people who started working for us,
Amazing.
who have wound up in really good places, doing good stuff.
You've
been doing it far longer than I have.
We had these people. Our honor that they chose to throw in with us. And I mentioned one the other day who was the granddaughter of my late friend. And she was our first intern. Anyway, I won't go into the history of our interns. We have a lot of them, but we just feel blessed to have had so many great ones.
Yeah, Laura Rutledge was a pretty good one, wouldn't you say?
Worked out all right.
You know, and let's face it, Buddy doesn't. Folks, for you who are out there who really don't know the history of Buddy Martin, I'll give you a couple names out there that owe their career to Buddy Martin. Rick Riley, who a lot of people say ranks right up there with Jan Jenkins as one of the truly great sports writers of all time. Pat Forty. These guys owe their career to Buddy Martin. This is a guy that has spotted talent for years and years and years and is known, has never been afraid to take a chance on somebody who had the desire to be good and the desire to work. And for those of you who are out there who don't know who Buddy is, trust me, this guy has invested more of his time and more of his effort into helping people, giving them that hand up, not a handout, but the hand up that they need to get started. And, there aren't many people out there like that, guys. There really aren't. There aren't. Buddy and I were so blessed to have grown up at a time when people gave us chances. I was 13 years old when I started writing sports for a newspaper. I was 15 when I covered my first college football game. And Johnny
You were a child prodigy. And
yeah,
we were destined
Johnny,
to each other.
I'm also the guy that Johnny Vault called an effing pissant.
There you go.
And I just about did piss my pants out when he did that too.
Look who's back. He's sitting there glowering at us. He's proud of himself. You know why? He got a generator. Are you there, Loren? Are you frozen? Just as I'm bragging on him.
He's frozen in time, buddy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so excited to see you and to be back on the air. He couldn't.
Well, we had him for a second there, so you try. So
totally froze.
I guess it's time for us to pull the plug and tell people that's not a bad way. That's a bad way to put it. Pull the plug and get on to the business of you taking care of your parents and my wife taking care of me. She's been awesome today. She has been unbelievable today. She even found my lost sport coat today.
Has she found your lost wallet?
Not wallet. No, that'd be a miracle.
Well,
we're convinced somebody stole it. No, she is not. But we're doing good and we're safe and dry in France. I'm so happy your power is on. And
well, I am too, and I hope we have it all night long because I got a stepfather that has a CPAP that he needs to, and I can do without, but my parents can't.
For people that don't know, Franz is such a good son. He's taking care of his very ill parents right now. and he's with them all day long and all night. And you're got a special home in heaven, friends, for what you've done for your mom and dad, your stepdad. And I know these are real hard times. I don't want to put your business out there, but these are real hard times for Franz. So please pray for his family and him. He's the Iron Duke, and he can handle almost anything. But these are hard times for Franz. Franz, God bless you.
God bless you too, buddy. And I'm glad that you're there in Peace City where it's safe. And I hope when you got back to Peace City, there wasn't too much damage where you were, or
No,
that
none. We had none. We were just blessed beyond belief. We were really happy about that. So, but Franz, thank you for coming on tonight. And for all you people out there, we are prayerfully going to say one more time that our thoughts and prayers are with you. We're praying for you every minute, that you'd be safe and that minimum damage, and that everybody in Florida could be, as God's grace, could be spared of any injury, death, or loss of property. But we know that's not going to happen. So, Lord, guide us through this as best you can and help us, and particularly bless our loved ones and our friends and the people here at Gator Bay. So, Franz,
let me throw one thing in,
sure.
And that's to every one of you out there. Make your peace with God, because you don't know what the next minute will bring, particularly at a time like this when we have such a deadly force of nature coming. And it brings out the best in people. It also brings out the worst in people as well. And we find out stuff about our neighborhoods being able to handle water and wind and power and so many things. So do yourself a favor. Take a moment. Make your peace with God right now. You won't regret, even if nothing happens the rest of the night, you won't regret that you did it. And that would be the best piece of advice I could ever give anybody. Make your peace with God right now.
Well said, Franz. Well said, my friend. God bless you, protect you and your family tonight, Franz.
Thank you, bud.
Thank you, and thank you very much. The great Franz Beard. We'll say good night to you. Thanks again to our sponsors, to our friends at TitanMRI.com, Renshaw Medical Research, and of course, Melda Law. God bless you all, and good night.